Yesterday, I viewed the documentary on Netflix called Tell Me Who I Am. It is a fascinating story, and I'm going to basically give away the twist in this review, but I don't think that, or this discussion slash review. It's not exactly a review, more of a commentary on what I believe the importance of this film to be, as far as what it says and what it doesn't say, what it leaves unsaid. The initial premise of this true story is there's a set of twins living in the UK, and at the age of 18, one of these two boys, one part of this set of twins, gets into a motorcycle accident in which he damages his brain, and he's in a coma for a little while. And when he comes back to consciousness, he can't remember anything about his life except his brother. His twin brother is the only person that he remembers, but he doesn't remember his parents, he doesn't remember his home, he doesn't remember anything else about his life. So it's up to his brother to reintroduce him to his life, and so that's the initial story. But the deeper story within this already complex and fascinating story is a darker one, and that is what we find out eventually is that the two brothers had been sexually abused by their mother at a very young age, up to the time that they were around the age of 14, and also that in their childhood and adolescent years, their mother had often pimped them out to people that she knew, to friends of hers. Now, when the brother who lost his memory regains consciousness but doesn't remember anything, not just initially, but for many years, the other brother decides that he's going to tell him that they lead a wholesome life, and that they have a good family, and there are no dark secrets, because he doesn't want to reinitiate his brother into all the horrors of their life. So he tells him, our mother's a good mother. Our father's kind of a jerk, kind of an angry, distant kind of figure. We don't really care for him that much, but we'll just leave him alone. But our mother's a nice lady, and we've gone on many vacations as a family, and just led good lives. We've led good, wholesome lives. But and so through telling this lie to his brother, the other brother believes that he is saving him from the trauma that he would otherwise have to endure. And also in doing this, the brother who's telling his brother these lies is enabling himself to pretend that these things didn't actually happen. So it ends up being a psychological mechanism that he used at first for altruistic purposes. And one thinks of, or I thought of, the the novella by Joseph Conrad called Heart of Darkness, in which the character of Kurtz had descended into madness, and his final words were the horror, the horror. And when he goes and meets Kurtz's wife, he can't bring himself to tell her the truth about how Kurtz wound up, how he lost his mind, how he went mad, and how his final words were the horror, the horror. So he tells her that his final words were her name, and thus he gives her the chance to feel that he died as a good, noble man who loved her the way that a husband ought to love a wife. The noble lie, if you will. That's the whole notion of it. Now, eventually, the brother who had been in the coma finds out that there's more going on, and I won't go into all of what's involved in this great unraveling of things, but eventually he has to know the truth, and he becomes very set on finding out the actual truth of what all went down, whereas the brother who had the burden of having to remember everything, he basically didn't want to tell him any of the details. He when forced into a corner, admits to him, yes, our mother abused us, and yes, our mother pimped us out to other people as children. But beyond that, he doesn't want to go into detail about it, and it's a big struggle, and it leads to a lot of conflict between these two people who had basically only had harmony between them for most of their lives. Having that bond, that bond that identical twins have, where they're genetically very what's the word, consanguineous, where they have all of the same genes. Basically, they're basically clones of one another. So there's an understanding that they have of one another. The whole thing about being able to complete one another's sentences and so forth. Now, the movie is very interesting. It's very involving. I would say that there is a scene or two where the director kind of gets some cheap sorts of emotional. There's this mindset that documentary filmmaking, is truthful and is not manipulative, and that is absolutely not true, because I've seen a ton of documentaries that are very manipulative and that are very not balanced in the way they present things. This documentary, I think, isn't guilty of the latter. It does present the complexity of everything, but they fall prey into this sort of reality television trope where they have the brothers talk it out and have this big fight on camera, and it's all sort of melodramatic and contrived, and I wish the director had avoided doing that. That's my one quibble with the way the film was made. Other than that, I thought it was very well made. Now, here's the thing about the material that's covered, the story that is told in this film. It is, of course, a true story, but from watching the movie, you never know exactly who these people are, exactly who their family is. Nobody is identified by surname. And so we don't actually see the larger picture. The truth is, and you have to go elsewhere, you have to look up stuff online to find this out. The truth is that this woman, the boy's mother, was somebody who, of course, was a very disturbed person, but also a powerful and influential figure within the English aristocracy. She had she was in some way genetically related to Attlee Clement, the Prime Minister of the UK in the 40s and 50s, I believe. So she had a lot of money to her name, and she had a lot of influence over people. And what the movie hints at but never reveals is this network. It reveals that she is somebody, of course, who abused her own children, and it turns out that she also had two other children besides the two twins, whose father died early on. She remarried, and the man she remarried is the man that we meet in the documentary and we were introduced to as their father. He's actually their stepfather. But the two boys from her first marriage have to live out in the garden shed, and they don't have a key to the main house, which is very strange. That they're basically treated like they're not really part of the family. And when seen in the context of them being the products of her first marriage, and them being discriminated against as not really part of the family, with the new father, who is portrayed as very or was seen depicted, remembered as a very cruel and ruthless man. He called them the dim twins, and relegated them to living outside of the main house, and they didn't have a key to get into the main house, so they basically lived separately from the rest of the family. But it turned out that she had two other children, and she abused the two other children were a boy and a girl, and she definitely abused the boy. It's not as clear whether the girl was a victim of abuse or not. But what I find unsatisfying about this film, and maybe there were reasons why it had to be done this way. Maybe there were possible lawsuits. I'm not sure. Maybe we're dealing with people who are powerful and who have a lot of clout. But I wanted to know who these other abusers were. In particular, there's an account given of somebody who was supposedly a famous artist who lived in London, which was, I guess, a little ways away from where this family lived, in Suffolk, I believe. And so he gives this account of being taken to this artist's house, and then at age 14 refusing the artist's advances, and then running away and getting back to his home, and in that way subtly letting his mother know that he wasn't going to take this abuse anymore at the hands of her friends or her connections or whatever, the people she was pimping the boys out to. So who was this artist? The movie doesn't tell us. Who were the other people that the boys were forced to be abused by? The movie doesn't tell us. There's never any hint. There's never any suggestion of who these people are, but there is plenty of indication that these are powerful and connected people, because again, this is a woman with millions of pounds to her name, and again, she sort of, I think she's a small shop owner, so she doesn't, she doesn't really have a living that she has to earn, because she's already got all this money in the bank. But for all of that, she never is very generous with her boys, and they only find out later about how much she had in the bank. So it seems clear that this is what you could call a high-level pedophile ring that is exposed in this documentary. But the documentary doesn't reveal who these people were. And I guess you could say allegedly, who they allegedly were. And it doesn't talk to these other people and ask them questions about whether this is true or not. And I suppose that, again, there might have been some impediment to this entire notion of going down that path. It might have made the movie a lot more complicated. But I think it's irresponsible not to put that information out there, given that these people, for one thing, they should have to pay. Their justice should be done, or should be pursued. For another thing, if they were abusing these boys, they were probably abusing other children as well. So that's the one really unsatisfying thing about this documentary. That doesn't really have so much to do with the crafting of the documentary itself. It has to do with the information that is left out of the documentary. When watching this documentary, Tell Me Who I Am, I was reminded of the Jerry Sandusky revelations. Jerry Sandusky being the defensive coach for Penn State, who was this revered figure in this milieu, and was a coach under the legendary Penn State coach Bobby Paterno, and it was eventually revealed. It was eventually found out that he was abusing young boys who were underprivileged, kids who he was supposedly taking under his wing and doing charity work for, but in truth he was using them sexually and abusing them. Even in the locker room of where Penn State met for their for their games, their home games. One other coach actually witnessed, a younger coach actually witnessed him, Jerry Sandusky, abusing an adolescent boy in the locker room, and didn't report it to the police. Just said something to Joe Paterno, who then said something to the Penn State authorities, and then it never went any further than that. Now, all of that was scandalous enough at the time, and I remember feeling really shaken by that story when it all came out, which was, I guess maybe that was around 10 years ago or so. But the real story, or not that this isn't real. This isn't real. This information that I'm talking about so far, it is of course very real. But the real, the deeper scandal of Jerry Sandusky is that he was, again, just like with the story involved in this documentary, Tell Me Who I Am, he was, through this supposedly charitable organization that he was a part of, he was pimping these kids out to various powerful people. And that part of the story just got cut off in the mainstream media. It just didn't get talked about. We were limited to hearing about the depredations of Coach Jerry Sandusky, but beyond that, nothing was allowed to emerge. And it just seems that this is the way, this is the complicity of the bought-off media, and this is Pedog Gate in a nutshell, in all of its manifestations. Whenever someone gets exposed, whether it's Jerry Sandusky, whether it's this woman in this documentary that I was reviewing a few minutes ago, whose name you can find, I don't remember it right now, or whether it's Jimmy Savile, or many other cases. What seems like happens again and again and again is the perpetrator, his crimes get leaked, right? And this also applies to the Epstein case, I think, to a large extent. Although Ghislaine Maxwell has also been arrested, but you notice they're not in any hurry in attempting to put her on trial, right? She's supposed to finally have her trial, like, I don't know, in a few months or something. So I just have no faith at all in the system to police itself. I think the system has shown itself time and again to be way too corrupt to be trusted, to be able to police itself, and to be able to see to it that these things are thoroughly investigated, and that everyone who's complicit is brought to justice and given their just deserts at the hands of the law. Instead, it goes to a point and then it stops. We don't hear about Sandusky's perhaps worst crimes. Worse than abusing these kids was that he would pander them to rich and powerful people that he knew, that he had built connections with. And with this woman in this documentary, Tell Me Who I Am, she did the same to her own children, but we never find out who these people are that she panders them to. With the Epstein case, some names have emerged of people who were supposedly a part of this ring, or who were brought in, who had flown on his plane, who were alleged to have abused some of the young girls that he had, basically working as underage prostitutes, sexual slaves, what have you. But none of these stories really seem to come out in a way that they should. That none of them seem to emerge in a manner that they would if the powers that be were on the up and up, if the media was on the up and up. I feel very strongly that these stories are managed and controlled, and the fires are put out in such a way that only the initially accused person suffers any kind of retribution. If even he does. Jimmy Savile lived a long life doing all kinds of unspeakable things and never was punished for anything. Same applies to these boys' mother. She died, according to the documentary. She had brain cancer and died of natural causes. And again, nothing came out about her. She was never brought to justice. Her deeds were never exposed to the light of day, and thus the trail was allowed to grow cold. Now, and in her case, it might have just been due to circumstances. But again, one finds over and over and over again this pattern. And I guess, for the last couple of minutes that I have to comment on this documentary and on the broader issue that it reflects, which is Pedogate, which in recent months, it's like it frustratingly goes from something that looks like it's about to be broken wide open to something that, if you believe in it, if you talk about it, even though there's all kinds of tangible evidence of it, you get dismissed as a conspiracy theorist, and you even get lumped together with people who believe in QAnon, which is not something I've ever advocated. But if somebody accuses a famous person of sexually abusing children, then it's like, oh, this is another QAnon thing. I mean, they come up with all kinds of ways to just behave dismissively towards people who have very valid, very credible accusations. I'm not saying every single one of them is true. I'm not saying the more lurid accounts are necessarily true. I don't know what I think about the adrenochrome notion. I don't know how. I believe that satanic ritual abuse happens. I don't know how common it is. I believe that MK Ultra has certainly been practiced on children to a great extent. But again, some of the more kind of out there or lurid sorts of testimonies, I think they need to be taken on a case-by-case basis. But the point is, you don't have to posit, anything. You don't have to posit devil worship or blood drinking or ritual sacrifice, or consumption of adrenochrome. These all might be true in various cases. But even if you go with the more run-of-the-mill stuff, we're still talking about systematic sexual abuse by the powerful against the innocent, against children. And this has cropped up over and over and over again. And I think by now it's clear that the ones who should be pushing for these kinds of horrific tales to be exposed are not interested in doing their jobs, or are corrupt, or have been bought out. And I'm not sure what all can be done about that, but it has become, I'm not sure what can be done about that beyond turning to vigilante justice, which I'm not advocating for here. I want to make that clear. But when the powers that be and the justice system and the fourth estate, i.e. the media, that's supposed to hold the justice system's feet to the fire, consistently fails to do their jobs, well, something's got to give. And I think that's why this has been a kind of consuming obsession for me for the last 5, 6, 7 years. As soon as the scales fall open, or the scales fall from your eyes and you see it for what it really is, you can't unsee it. And something has to be done about it. But at this point, I'm not sure what. Thanks for watching. My name's Andy Nowicki. You can check out my work at altrightnovelist.com.